One's first impressions of India are always to do with the amount of people and the extraordinary assault on your senses. It's a really vivid experience on anybody who goes to that country. Couple this with an enormous production. It's remarkable because you're importing your own world into a very vivid world, and it can be very, very exciting.
A film in India does not start shooting until it has been blessed, and the ceremony is extraordinary. You know, there must have been 130 crew, and everybody gathered together for the blessing of the camera and the blessing of the film. It's wonderful Hindu priests and the cracking of the coconut in front of the camera lens with Richard Goodwin garlanded, and David going round the camera to bless it, and the production was just so moving.
It was the first day. I remember I didn't sleep at all the night before. I was so nervous, and not at all. Seriously, not a wink. And got in a costume, got on the set, and Dave said to me, "How are you, old chap?" And I said, I didn't sleep at all last night. He said, "No, neither did I." So I was so nervous. I said, "So was I." It's ridiculous. Now get in that carriage and drive her down this road. So I got into the carriage and I just drove past camera. Cut, print, right, next. And by the end of the day, he said, "I'm 3 days ahead." That was the end of the first day. By the end of the first week, he was 7 days ahead.
You can take it from me, that picnic will never come off. Just like that fiasco this morning. He'll forget he ever invited you. I'll wager he's even forgotten that the caves are miles from the station.
Have you been to them?
No, but I know all about them, naturally.
Naturally.
The trip up to the Marabar Caves, which comes after the train journey, was a remarkable piece of, it was a piece of fortune in location finding, because we found not only the place where the caves would be, but also the journey across this extraordinary rock face. It was a very, very beautiful area, and we had to, at one point when we were tracking the camera along and following the elephant with the howdah and the characters in the howdah, and we were panning and travelling with them. David got the construction department to build an enormous track, which was must have been built about a week before, and it took a week to construct, and it was on scaffolding and everything, and all the scaffolding carried up by hand up to this rock face, and we had what was probably a 100-foot track built, which was at the height of the top of the elephant. So it was this enormous construction, which was a fairly phenomenal piece of work to do in such a remote place.
David had found these amazing sort of lunar space landscape for the elephant ride up to the first cave, which was staggering. And of course there were no caves there. Those caves had to be dug, blown out, which is rather controversial in itself. I remember at the time there were sort of press reports back in England, which we were all completely unaware of, about how this ruthless film crew had blown out half a mountainside to make a cave on a holy rock.
We blasted a hole in this, number of holes in the side of this rock. We obviously found out who owned the rock, and it was the temple on top, and distributed the necessary largesse, and everybody appeared to be jolly happy. But then later on we found out there were other people who'd expected to benefit as well, and they hadn't. And they started a campaign against us for destroying a holy mountain, which I suppose is true, but we wouldn't have done it if we'd known, because we could have done it another way.
These days I don't think we'd be able to do what was done then. In retrospect, I think it's fairly alarming that rocks that had been there for that long were chipped away. And although these entrances were only about probably 3 or 4 feet deep, because the interiors were shot in the studio, but they were very skillfully and very cleverly sort of repaired afterwards. And I think that very few people would probably even see where we were. But it was a remarkable place, and a very, very beautiful, very remote outcrop of rock.
There were two other important locations of the film. Some sets in Chandrapur, which was Uttakamund, which is a old hill station above Metapalium. And there it's Little England. I mean, the British went out there and they rebuilt Surrey in the hills. And the street names are, you could really be in Red Hill. And the church, which you do see quite well in the film, is, apart from being, if it wasn't yellow, you'd think you were in Surrey.
In Utti Command, they had the railway, and everybody knew about this ratchet railway that works there. So that was one of the things that David liked, and we used that. It's all cobbled together with bits of string, but it does still all work. Very interesting place. And Utti was where they invented snooker in the Utti club. They actually, bored subalterns invented this game, and it took off.
And then, of course, the other key location was Kashmir at the end, which then politically was very stable. And that was a stunning place.
Kashmir is just so magical, and of course we can't go there now, but the Lake Dal, the colours and the magic of that, it certainly stay with me. It's a beautiful, beautiful lake, and just marvellous. It's magical.
Well, Kashmir was towards the end of the film, in the story it's at the end of the film, but also towards the end of the schedule. And Kashmir is a place that we went to for about 2 weeks, and to film on Dal Lake and the famous houseboat sequence. And it was interesting because when we went there, the beginning of shooting, which must have been in the late winter and early spring, the shooting was held up for a few days because the mountains surrounding the lake were covered in cloud. And as David so rightly said, much to the concern of Richard, who was footing the bill, we've spent all this money, we've come to India, and we've come to the Himalayas in order to see those. And there we were, surrounded by the most magnificent range of mountains in the world. Why are we shooting? Why do we shoot if we can't see the mountains? We will wait. And so I took the unit out on a couple of days, and we waited, basically, and we had the crew standing by. Nowadays, of course, there'll be many other different ways of getting around the problem, but at that time we sat on it, and we waited for almost 2 full days for the cloud to clear.
Well, here you are at last. I've been looking for you everywhere.
We did this scene. There's Victor playing Aziz, doesn't want to be reconciled to Fielding, and Fielding has made this long trip with his wife in order to be reconciled, and David would sit in a sort of bit of a grump, sort of hours, and he was obviously tired by this time. And I remember every time we did the reverse or something, he would be arranging the washing on the line, or there would be some boat coming by with sludge from the bottom of the lake, and he'd be saying, I want that washing on the line, change those bits, John, will you? Change those bits. And then the boat would come by, get that boat back, And we were playing this incredibly emotional, tense scene. It was meant to be about reconciliation. And I was becoming exasperated and starting to blow it, as you do as an actor, because I thought maybe his focus would be upon the intensity and beauty of the acting. But it wasn't.
David had set up a shot on the bridge in Srinagar, looking at this beautiful Himalaya, and he wanted the snow to come down in the frame. And I said, David, it won't, because it's April now, and every day it's getting hotter, and it's going to go up. And I said, you can stay here today, and you can stay here tomorrow, but after that, that's it, you're finished. I mean, his jaw dropped, but he knew he had to do that because there just wasn't any money, and he couldn't finish the shoot, so he did. He agreed. He shot it in the end, and that's how it is. One of the amusing incidents that I remember, whilst we were waiting for the snow to go down the mountain a bit, I was walking around the back of the set, and there was an alley there running down to the river, and an Indian gentleman came up to me and said, "What film are you making here?" And I said, "A Passage to India." And he looked at the alley and said, "Is this the passage?" Which made me laugh. By that time, after 26 weeks, we were all getting very, very tired, you know, and so we were very, very pleased to finish up in Kashmir. I can tell you, it was a tough part of the location.
When you come to the end of a film like the practical making of a film like that in India, and your British crew have gone out there, and from the local cultural point of view, you know, the rich Westerners coming out, and they come along and they give lots of jobs and lots of employment. There's a tremendous sense of sort of euphoria that develops with this circus of filmmaking. And when it comes to the end, suddenly you're pulling everything away. You know, that almost that support system that you developed, all those traders that we had in the marketplace, and we had quite a few disabled people dressed up as beggars, and they were getting fed twice a day. They were getting, I think it was 12 rupees a day then. For them, it was fantastic. And, you know, I always feel it's quite a thought to think, well, what happened to them after we all left? It must have been quite a letdown when suddenly everything was pulled away and we all went back to England.
As production draws to an end on any film, one has a sense of well, sometimes you have a sense of relief on certain films, and on certain films you have a sense of achievement and wanting it to go on. I certainly wanted it to go on a little longer. It was hard work, but it was I think everybody shared the excitement of working on what they thought was going to be a fairly remarkable film.
Leaving India was a very sad event, but it was a wonderful experience to the sounds and the great thing about the people of India, even though so many of them are so poor, is that they're wonderfully smiling people, and it was just a joy to go out and about, and very exciting, and the countryside as well was just astonishing.
Yeah, the whole of India does blow your socks off, really. We were there quite a long time, I think about 6 months and all. And yeah, we became a real close family. And when it came to leave, you know, we've finished now, we all, David, are you sure we haven't, is there another scene we could do, you know? And he said, no, I've really tried like hell to find something, but we have to go. Finish it off in Shepperton. We went, oh no, we don't want to go back to Shepperton, it's going to be cold. And, are you sure you can't? And he scratched his head and he tried to work out whether we could stay on and build another set, but Richard was there saying, Richard Goodman saying, no, you go home now.